son, Jason Jordan.
They say that professional wrestling is a little like a soap opera, only with a lot more spandex and baby oil. And like its comparison, pro wrestling has been heavily reliant on mystery reveals throughout its storied history. Many of these, especially in WWE, have been a roaring success, such as when Chris Jericho was revealed as being behind the Millennium Countdown in 1999, but others, they barely left a dent in the WWE furniture. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 of the most underwhelming reveals in WWE history. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. Number 10. Danhausen in the crate. Ironically, Danhausen was cursed from the second WWE began teasing the opening of a mysterious crate elimination chamber. Nothing worth caring about in pro wrestling has ever come out of a crate or a box, and this was the substantial evidence to confirm it. Whilst Danhausen got the initial pop, it then quickly turned into boos. Now, most of the issue fell on the audience, whose expectations had been blown way out of proportion. When the crate was first shipped to Raw, many were hoping that it indicated that Chris Jericho was finally on his way back to WWE, despite reports of AEW having frozen his contract. While the presentation of other mysterious angles at the same time, such as the Vision's masked antagonist, took away the allure of whatever was inside the crate. The WWE ultimately set Danhausen up to fail on his first night. Let's face it, he was never a name big enough to debut on a PLE, let alone as a conclusion of a weeks-long mystery. There were even rumors that his reveal compared to the egg cracking at Survivor Series 1990, where Hector Guerrero was hatched as the Goblegooker. But whilst the debut was hit and miss, Danhausen certainly bounced back from it, as his comedic first appearance on Raw changed a lot of the fans' minds. Number 9. Curtis Axel as a Paul Heymon guy. Although he's revered as one of wrestling's greatest mouthpieces, Paul Heyman's phone book of clients leaves a lot to be desired. He guided Brock Lesnar during his rookie year, elevated Roman Reigns to deliver the best work of his career, and was sensational at the helm of WCW's Dangerous Alliance. But he also managed some true stinkers, with Curtis Axel being the worst of the bad crop. Introduced by Heymon on Raw's May 20th, 2013 episode, the repackaged Michael McGillicuddy re-debuted to audible groans from the live crowd. Nobody had been intrigued by him when he was in the new Nexus, and nobody was intrigued by him now. While WWE did try their best to get behind him with a lengthy Intercontinental Championship reign and wins over Triple H and John Cena, it wasn't enough. By the summer, despite still being the Intercontinental Champion, he was relegated to being CM Punk's whipping boy. The decision to hand Curtis Axel such a prolific role becomes doubly worse once you understand that it was only done to keep Paul Heyman on WWE programming during Brock Lesnar's latest sabbatical. The same unfortunate fate happened to Cesaro a few months later, and he, like Axel, never recovered. Number 8. Kevin Nash texts himself? Kevin Nash was never provided the sort of material that would have made his 2011 return to WWE a success, but the revelation that he'd been texting himself was a big slap in the face to the viewer. Returning at SummerSlam, Nash targeted the new WWE champion CM Punk, laying him out after his main event victory and allowing Alberto Del Rio to cash in his Money in the Bank contract. The supposed reason behind this calculated assault was that Triple H, the on-screen chief operating officer and Kevin Nash's longtime friend behind the scenes, had sent him a text instructing him to attack whoever had won the SummerSlam headliner between CM Punk and John Cena. Now that all sounds fine, but over time, it was made clear that it wasn't the game who had been texting Nash, but rather Kevin Nash texting himself from Triple H's phone. The whole angle reeked of WWE ripping up its plans at the last minute. According to Kevin Nash, Triple H was supposed to have been behind the messages and turn heel for the first time since 2006, but instead, he replaced Nash in the Night of Champions match with CM Punk, which he won, and then defeated Big Daddy Cool at TLC later that year. In short, the entire thing was designed to put Triple H over again. Number 7. Hornswaggle becomes a McMahon. Almost immediately after he was forced to cancel his fake death storyline in light of the Benoit family tragedy, Mr. McMahon started another contrived angle. He was the father to an illegitimate son who just so happened to be a WWE superstar. Okay, calling him a superstar might be pushing it, given that it was Hornswaggle who was revealed as being a third-generation McMahon, much to the embarrassment of Mr. McMahon and the delight of Triple H. The live crowd absolutely loathed this reveal, and many online have branded it as one of WWE's worst angles in history, even more so when you learn that the storyline was eventually dropped and Hornswaggle was revealed as actually being the offspring of Finlay. Supposedly the plan was for Mr. Kennedy to be revealed as an illegitimate McMahon, but he was legitimately suspended from WWE after being one of the 11 wrestlers named in a steroid scandal, and he would never receive his chance at superstardom. Number 6. Hornswaggle is the anonymous Raw general manager. As if Hornswaggle being revealed as Mr. McMahon's illegitimate son wasn't bad enough, he was once again made the butt of the joke in 2012 when he was unveiled as the anonymous Raw general manager, 1 year after the angle was abruptly dropped. Kevin Eck, a former creative writer for WWE, detailed during a 2016 blog post how Mr. McMahon continually shot down ideas of how to wrap the angle up, his reason being that most people had moved on from it. Ultimately, Hornswaggle was pitched as a joke, but McMahon gave it the thumbs up, and the King of Small Style was unmasked as WWE's Master Keyboard Warrior ahead of Raw 1000 in July of 2012. During an interview with Sports Illustrated, Hornswaggle went into more detail about what exactly was going to happen with him in the role. I would love to do the whole anonymous general manager storyline again. The way it was supposed to turn out was that I was supposed to be this almost mob-style boss character with this Napoleon complex, throwing his power around while running Raw. Obviously, things didn't work out that way. Now maybe with those plans, it wouldn't have been that bad. Number 5. Eric Rowan's Spider. Sometimes WWE will prolong a mystery angle for so long that by the time they're ready to do the big reveal, everybody has lost interest in what or who is at the heart of the storyline. But in the case of Eric Rowan's cage, nobody was interested from the start. Drafted to Raw in late 2019, Eric Rowan began carrying a cloth-covered cage to ringside with a supposedly rabid animal inside it. He snapped at anybody who went near the thing, and whatever this thing was, it once bit off Rowan's jobber opponents, drawing blood. This was built up for weeks and weeks until WWE reached the March 2nd, 2020 episode of Raw, where the big reveal happened, and it happened to be a toy spider. Making the reveal even worse was the fact that it took place during a backstage segment, and that it was no way Jose who persuaded Eric to do the big reveal. Once he saw the toy, he sprinted for the hills. The whole thing was a complete joke and a wasted time for everyone involved, instantly killing whatever credibility Rowan had left. Number 4. Rikishi did it for The Rock. Vince McMahon booked himself into a corner at Survivor Series 1999. He knew way ahead of the time that Stone Cold Steve Austin wasn't going to be medically cleared to wrestle, and yet he continued to advertise the main event as being Austin vs Triple H vs The Rock, until on the night Austin was a victim of a hit and run, kick-starting a whodunit mystery that stretched until October 2000. But the issue was that the company failed to build up any viable suspects, eventually throwing Rikishi to the wolves as a man behind the wheel. Fans were more bewildered than they were stunned by this, as Rikishi had been the fun-loving partner of Too Cool, but he didn't have the charisma or the star power to thrive in such a heel position. His I Did It for The Rock promo also failed on every level. The Rock was already one of the most prominent wrestlers before Austin was taken out, and was quite literally holding the WWF title while Rikishi was delivering the infamous promo. The further reveal of Triple H being the true mastermind was also terrible, only being done to cover up the company's mistakes in casting Rikishi. The super heavyweight was never viewed the same by fans ever again. Number 3. Diamond Dallas Page stalks Sarah. Based entirely on his booking and presentation, Vince McMahon seemingly never liked Diamond Dallas Page. Being one of the only major players from WCW acquired by the WWF meant that it was Page's fault, not Vince's, that Goldberg, Sting, Hulk Hogan and countless others sat out their contracts, and Vince McMahon made sure to do everything in his power to bury Cage's career deep into the mud as a result. He started by casting him as a stalker of The Undertaker's then wife Sarah. Nobody who knew of DDP wanted him to portray such a depraved character, particularly as the angle only led to Taker, Sarah and Kane all battering the former WCW World Heavyweight Champion throughout the summer. Indeed, Sarah, a non-wrestler, scored a pinfall victory over a man who'd held the big gold belt on 3 occasions, probably one of the biggest burials in WWE history. DDP has since stated that he didn't initially realize the impact the storyline would have on his career, as he explained to Ariel Helwani, "If I was in WCW, if they told me that bullshit angle, I'd go, fuck you, seriously? I'm gonna be stalking someone else's wife? I didn't realize there was no reason for me to think that they were going to do, not even give me an opportunity. The thing that it taught me was that you can't be afraid to walk away from the table when you have something that you know they want. What I should have done when he said that, I should have just done my inner voice, which would have laughed out loud and said, Vince, are you looking at my wife? Seriously, of all people, I'm going after Taker's wife? Like, no, it's a horrible idea." Number 2. The Goblegooker. Nobody quite knew what to expect when the WWF wheeled out a giant egg ahead of 1990 Survivor Series, and by the time it cracked, they wished they never learned. What hatched inside was the Goblegooker, the WWF's supposed new mascot portrayed by Hector Guerrero. He was dressed head to toe in the anthropomorphic turkey costume, danced about the ring with Gene Okerlund, and mumbled a few words, but that was it. After a disastrous house show outing, Hector was canned by the WWF and the turkey was cooked for Christmas. The reveal of what was in the egg had gone down as the most anticlimactic reveals in wrestling history. But like with Danhausen in the crate 36 years later, fans' expectations had been blown out of proportion. There was never going to be Ric Flair inside of an egg, just like how it was never going to be Chris Jericho inside a crate, but still, this sucked, and Vince McMahon knew it. And number 1, the higher power. As with most storylines throughout his business career, Vince McMahon had no conclusion in mind when starting the higher power angle, and he ultimately revealed himself as a master manipulator of the corporate ministry. The reveal itself has been retroactively lauded as a definitive moment of the Attitude Era. However, the angle lacks substance and believability. McMahon's reasoning for aligning with The Undertaker was to get the WWF Championship away from Stone Cold Steve Austin, but at the time the angle kicked off, The Rock was champion, and he was aligned with McMahon. The storyline was quickly wrapped up after this reveal, and the corporate ministry disbanded within 2 months. The Undertaker has spoken candidly about his dislike of the former chairman revealing himself as a higher power in an interview with Shaq Wrestling. It was a huge storyline. I wasn't a big proponent of the higher power being Vince. I just thought it watered the ministry down. Although it led me to abducting Stephanie and all of that, it all works out. But originally, I wasn't really thrilled about the corporate ministry. That really felt watered down to me. It felt like it kind of took away from what we were doing. Although, as I said, we got it back. But there you have it, folks. 10 of the most underwhelming reveals in WWE history. Be sure to leave your comments down below. I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.